Welcome to Underwater CSI International Revealed. I'm your host, Senior Investigator Rich Morin, and with me, as always, is
The co-host, senior investigator Ed Myron.
what's going on, buddy?
How's everything, Rich?
Hey, good, good. Tonight's show is going to be it's going to be a little different
Interesting.
because we're really not talking about insurance fraud. We're not talking about fatalities. We're not talking about a huge accident could have easily have led to a fatality and a recovery, etc.
Right.
But we happen to we happen to kind of nip that in the bud, just from observation skills and what we heard.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
but
It
we were
was
out on a training dive, right? No, no,
yeah.
no. We were scoping
No,
for a new training site. I think it
right.
was.
We were looking for we were looking at a particular training site. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
When
I know we got done with the dive and we came back up and we were back up on the boat. We had the inflatable out,
yep.
18-foot inflatable, with the light bar and stuff on the back, etc. All lettered up, with our underwater CSI logo, etc. on it. But you heard
Yeah, I
somebody.
heard somebody screaming and yelling for help.
Yeah, now this isn't the first time you've heard it with your
Super
eagle-like ears and eyes.
supersonic hearing.
Yeah, super sonic. That's from being a Superman.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, all of a sudden you're like, Rich, I hear somebody yelling for help.
Yeah.
We started looking around, and off this island, off the northwest corner of the island,
Yeah.
kind of between the island and shore. So they're pretty far out from shore,
Right.
way out from shore. And we noticed five kayaks out. Well, actually, we noticed four kayaks
Right. There was a
that
whole
were
group.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whole group of people.
yeah.
Yep.
Rentals. So that's always a
A
good time.
challenge.
And so we saw some struggling going on. We saw some paddles up in the air. I mean, again, they were pretty far away.
Right.
And I was driving the boat and I just, took off toward the scene. And as we got closer, you were kind of giving me directions.
Yep.
You
Yep.
said that you could see somebody in the water,
Yep. I
and it
could see
looks like they
somebody
were going down
flailing.
for the final time.
Yep. Yep.
But
And
we
we could
flew
see,
up there. We went right in the middle of everything. And then what'd you do?
yeah. So, you timed it perfect. You came up with the boat. I reached over the side of the boat, just almost filling myself, just barely had a hold of the guy's hair, and basically tried to, basically pulling him up. And we have the line along the Achilles. I had him grab a hold of that line, and I'm holding him by under the armpit. And I noticed his other arm, you know, he's still struggling in the water, but
Yeah, because
holding
he's only
on.
holding on with
Right,
one
he's
arm
holding
on
on
the
with one
rope.
hand, and I'm
I heard
like,
you yelling at him. Grab
yeah,
on, grab on.
yeah, grab on, with your other hand. And he's like, no, I have the kayak, my deposit.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, I mean, he's puking, he's choking on water. He's just,
Right, right,
it was just he was drowning is what was happening.
yeah, yeah,
But I thought you were going to fall out of the boat. I mean, that's all far. I mean, I saw your head go underwater.
right,
You were so far over the boat. I mean, your feet were off the deck. I was like, holy mackerel. Trying to dive to hold on to your feet, and all of a sudden you come up with this kid and you got him by his hair. I was like,
yeah,
holy mackerel.
yeah,
You know, I mean, he was going down for the final time. He was done.
yeah. It would
He
have
was
been,
done.
like you said, this would not have been a recovery. This would have been or it would have been a recovery, not a rescue.
Yeah. Then one thing we noticed though, he had lacerations all over his face, on top
Yeah,
of his head, broken collarbone. We could see his collarbone just protruding out.
yeah. His hands were
Um,
all bruised.
yeah, his hands were all cut up and everything.
Right,
And he was holding on to this kayak, which was taking him down.
right,
The kayak had no flotation, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the kayak is going to the bottom, and it was 90 something feet of water right there.
right,
And we, kept trying to tell him, let go of the kayak, because he was leaning way over, like you
right.
said. And he just didn't want to let go. He's like, no, my
No,
deposit. I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
holy mackerel.
And we look around. Where's his friends, or where was the group that was out there with him? They they all headed back to shore.
Hey, what we found out was he capsized in the kayak. A boat had gone by, through a little bit of a wake. He capsized in the kayak. None of them, out of all five of them, nobody knew how to swim.
Right.
The life vest that he had on was a child's life vest.
Yeah.
He
So
wasn't a big guy, but he was probably 5'10". I mean, average guy height
yeah.
wise, probably 140, 150 pounds, you
Right.
know, but he had a child's life vest on, and just wasn't enough to keep him up,
No.
especially holding on to that kayak. I mean, he was going down for the count,
Right.
but we, anyway, you held on to him. I
Yep.
leaned over and I finally got the kayak away from him and I pulled
Right.
that up
Pull it up.
across our boat,
Yep.
dumped the water out of it. And then together we pulled him up into the
Got him
boat.
up into the boat. Right.
Yeah. And, you know, asking him what happened.
Yeah.
And why don't you let the audience know what his good friends, what his buddies were doing?
Yeah. So it, it, it was pretty incredible for us to, well, witness part of it because we were coming up on the scene, right? So we could see some things happening, but he was saying that you know his friends basically panicked when he went in. They were all worried that the same thing was going to happen to them. So he was trying to climb up into one of their kayaks, and they were literally hitting him with the paddles
Yeah, because they
and
were
try,
they were afraid they were going to capsize and they don't know how to swim.
right, right. And they
Yeah.
they saw him struggling. They saw him going underwater, and they were like, "No, we're not having that." And then they were hitting him or pushing him off with the paddles and
So all,
the
all these lacerations that he had on his face, top of his head, his hands, collarbone broken, that's
yeah,
from his buddies smacking him with the paddle.
yeah, yeah,
Trying to, no, 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 get away. And they're
yeah, get
smacking him
away.
because they didn't want to capsize themselves.
Right, right.
But
And this kid was in bad shape, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, he was in bad shape.
but that's not all. I mean, we brought him to shore. We
Right,
eventually caught up to the other kayaks that were paddling back because they were again a long ways from shore. We caught up with them,
right,
had words with all of them,
y-
not nice words,
right,
and basically showing them what they did to their buddy. Here they are out there, and they got a buddy in trouble, and every man for themselves, and you're beating the guy to death basically to make sure he doesn't get up on your kayak instead of holding on to him.
right. And he
Making sure that he's going to be okay, or one kayak in each side of him. Make
right.
sure he's going to be okay.
And they would have been going back to shore to tell whoever that they lost the buddy. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
So we would have been investigating that incident as a fatality, you know,
Yep.
but we would have determined the same outcome with that investigation, but at least it didn't happen,
Yeah.
but we knew what happened.
Yeah. And it probably would have been a wrongful death suit,
Right.
and I'm not sure whether or not somebody would be prosecuted for that or not, because of their lack of water skills,
Yeah. Right.
like that. But we went back to the rental place on shore, and I had a few words with the people from the rental company. First, I wanted to know what happened to the foam that was inside the kayaks,
Right.
and they said that they took them out. We took the foam all out because people didn't like it. They were having a hard time getting in and out. It's like, well, the foam is there to keep the kayak floating, so it
Right.
doesn't sink when it capsizes. And well, we've never had an issue. Well, you had an issue today.
Yeah. They didn't
Look
seem
at
very concerned.
Yeah, look at this guy. I mean, he's all cut up. He needs medical attention. Looks like his collarbone is broken. It's just unbelievable. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had some strong words
Right.
for the company
Right.
and reported him.
Yeah.
Reported him to the authorities up there.
Right. And
But
then
we
we
weren't
wait.
done yet.
No, well, then we waited. We waited till the EMS showed up, and
Yeah.
we kind of told them what happened. They weren't very happy with the situation.
Well, they didn't want EMS showing up either because they didn't want to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
They
so
weren't
we
sure if their
waited.
insurance was going to cover it. But
Yeah. So we waited till they showed up, and he they got him secured, and so we headed back out,
yeah.
headed back over towards the island.
And we didn't know it, but our day was not over yet.
No, it was it was kind of
We're going around the island to the other side now because again, we're trying to check out some new training sites.
right,
So
right.
we're heading over there. We're talking about what just happened, and we're heading
Yeah.
back.
And we see two pontoon boats, one in front of the other, going at a pretty good clip.
Now,
And
on the other side of this island, there's a lot of danger buoys because there's a very shallow, rocky, we'll call it a reef, but right there, well marked. I mean,
oh,
there's
very
danger
well
buoys
marked.
everywhere.
Yeah, very well marked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And first thing that we noticed was one, they were going at a pretty good clip. And the second thing we noticed was that they were overweighted. We
Way too many people on each one of the boats.
right.
I
We
mean, they're
we
again
know
rental boats, rental pontoons.
right. And we know the lake and we know what these rental boats, what the capacities are on these rental boats. And we knew just by looking that they were overweighted. There were just
What
way too
what gave
many.
it away? The front of the deck underwater.
Maybe the plowing of the water looked like the mule
Couldn't
plowing
see the
snow.
pontoons up front.
It looked like the mule plowing the snow.
Yeah.
Um, so
Oh
so we
man.
knew right away, and then like you said, they're heading right for the
Between the
shallow
two
area.
danger buoys,
Right,
right between them.
right between.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm standing up there and I'm yelling,
No,
no, no, no. They're waving back, hey.
hey, yeah, hey, thanks. It's a beautiful day. Well, your day's about to change.
And then all of a sudden,
All of a sudden, the first pontoon boat goes into the shallow water and immediately stops. The second
everybody
pond,
gets launched forward.
yeah, everybody falls forward. Again, a couple injuries here and there. The next one, they try to turn a little bit, and that's even worse because now they hit the next set of rocks.
It was just like, boom, boom.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
we're
just like this. What was this way? What was this way?
and we're like, no, no, this
Oh,
no, this just didn't happen. So so we go up, and I mean, when we got when I think did you get off the boat first or me? I don't remember. But we got into we
you
weren't
you you got off first.
yeah was
It's up.
waist wasn't even up to
It was
my
up to your
waist.
knees. Up to your knees. Yeah.
and and everybody is they're everybody on the boats are in shock. They're like, oh, what are we gonna do? What's
And
what's
I'm
gonna happen?
going, didn't you see the danger buoys? Well,
Yeah,
we thought that was the lane we were supposed to go
yeah,
in. It's like the the word danger.
yeah.
Did that throw it off?
That doesn't give it away.
Oh man.
So the first pontoon boat ripped the lower unit right off.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right off the outboard.
right off the outboard. So I didn't even put gear on. We just hooked a line to it. I dropped under with my mask and snorkel and hooked a line on it. We pulled it back up and put it up on the boat.
Up on their pontoon because they weren't
Couple
going anywhere.
yeah. And
And then we couldn't get it off the rocks. And it's like, well, we're going to need like 12 of you to get off this boat,
yeah,
and just
yeah.
stand here in shallow water.
Right.
And so hopefully we can get it to float and
Right.
push it off the rocks. But before that, we had to get the second boat out because it was blocking the first boat
Right.
because we couldn't go forward with it. We had to go back with it.
Right.
So the second boat, I mean, thankfully, even though they did hit the rock with the prop, it just bent the prop up, but
Right.
it didn't tear the lower unit up. They were still able to motor, not efficiently, but they could still motor.
Right.
And
Right.
so we had those 37 people get on.
Exactly. Everybody's standing in the water. Now there's boats all around us. Now, right? Because I mean, we got the lights on. We've got the boat there. There's people all standing in the water. Now there's boats around. There's boats all around us, wondering what is going on. Why is
Yeah.
all these people in the water? Why are the CSI guys there? There's a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. All right.
Oh my lord. So we got the second boat off, pushed him off, checked the bottom of the pontoon,
Right.
made him turn the engine off and give us the key so that we can go under and check the pontoon. All right.
Yeah.
So I went underwater, checked out the pontoons. Other than being dented up, there were no holes.
Right.
Dented pretty good though
Oh man.
on the two pontoons.
Yeah.
Then we got the people on the first pontoon off, got that floating, pushed that off to a little bit deeper water, right? Crawled underneath it,
Right.
and boy, those pontoons were heavily damaged,
Oh
but
man.
no holes.
No holes. Right.
But boy, were they smashed.
Yeah.
It
All.
was going to be a expensive day for them.
Yeah. Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah.
Especially,
So
remember when we went back and the kid on the dock. Here's the lower unit right here.
yeah. Well, first of all, we decided, all right, the marina is pretty far away, but it wasn't that far, right? So
Right.
we
Right.
we threw a tow rope on them and we towed them, and the second pontoon followed us.
Right.
Followed the first pontoon, and off we went to the marina. And as we're pulling it in, I could see the dock kid just going, "Whoa, what's going on?" And
Yeah.
why is the CSI boat
Yeah.
towing our boat back?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. Well,
yeah, and that's when you're like, yeah, here's your lower unit or
here's the
first
lower
boat.
unit. Here's your lower unit.
Yeah. And we
And
wanted to tell them too that the pontoons, all four pontoons, two and two, were destroyed basically. I mean, they were just so damaged on the bottom because you couldn't tell from looking at it from the surface, but
oh,
underneath they were just all smashed in.
right. They're all dented. I mean, that rock cropping that they hit. I mean, that's a major rock cropping. I mean, and it's not like they're like tiny little rocks like this,
Yeah.
they're big rocks like this and like this,
And
you know.
it's got to be 100 yards long, I'd say, if not longer, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would think it's about 100 yards. I mean, we've
Yeah.
been past it. I mean, how many times?
Yeah.
And how many times have we seen people get so close like that,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because
Problem is they just don't know. I mean, anybody can go up and rent a boat.
right,
And,
right,
the problem is, people don't know how to read all the buoys and all the signs on the water, and they don't know all the danger areas,
right.
etc.
And they certainly don't know what a die flag means. Hey, what is
that's
this? Let me pull
that's for
this up.
sure. Yeah, we've had so many issues over the years.
Yeah. And if
But
you but if you remember the young kid that was on the dock, he was like, "Why is there so many people on this boat?"
right when I
And
rented it to you, there was only a
right,
couple of people,
right, right. So
and in their
they
contract when they signed it, well, the other thing is when we got there weren't enough life vests.
no,
Remember, we had to give up the ones we had on the boat. We had
right,
to get our life vest out
right,
and start distributing those just so we could have everybody in a life vest
right.
and in a proper fitting life vest because it was crazy. But yeah, in their contract, I forgot what it was, like a maximum of 6 people or something like
Yeah, I
that. And
think it was something like that. Yeah.
one boat had 12 and one boat had 13 people on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So I mean,
it's like,
and he was like, "Wait, where did all these people come from?"
yeah,
We were like, "Yo, they were all out on the boat."
yeah,
He was like, "Oh, well, yeah." So they were going to be in a little bit of hot water. Both boats were severely damaged, and I remember a couple of people there who got thrown forward. Remember some rug burns from
yeah.
that padding on the floor, that carpet. You know,
And
they
that
kind
one
of
lady that hit the front
the rail.
the rail
Yeah.
system
Yep.
went flying into that.
Yeah. So I
But
mean,
mostly just banged up. Nobody broke
yeah,
anything.
yeah. Nobody. Yeah.
Just kind of in shock and banged up. But
Well, yeah. It's that quick stop that really.
yeah, when you're doing 25 miles an hour and then all of a sudden it's like hitting a concrete wall.
Yeah.
Everybody just went
Exactly.
flying.
Yeah. It was
And the operators of the boat had no idea what they were doing.
no,
Absolutely none.
no, and it was very clear that through your efforts of trying to notify them, that you better stop. I think the flailing of the arms and stuff like that kind of sent a signal, but they were, hey, yeah, it's a beautiful day.
Is he yelling go?
Yeah, is he
No,
he
no.
he's yelling faster, faster.
Go, go. Uh,
You
oh
know,
man.
well, maybe that's what it was. Maybe they
Yeah.
were thinking if we go faster, we can skim right over the rocks.
What we should have done is we should have built a ramp,
Yeah,
on each end.
right.
Let him get some air. But oh geez.
Oh man,
Anyway, so that was like a day in the life of Rich and Ed.
yeah. We're out there trying to check out some new training sites, and all of a sudden the day. Well, it's like you always said, right? Uh, you could plan out a day, and then the phone rings, right, and
And
everything changes.
everything changes. You have no
Right,
idea where you're going, what you're doing.
right,
If you're jumping on a plane, what? But
right.
yeah,
You know, are you packing up? Are you packing up this set of gear, that set of gear, or this other set of gear? What is it, right? So I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Hey, I think we got time for one more quick story.
okay.
You remember we got done training. We were training all day long, and we were ahead. No, I think you and I were just we're out by ourselves on patrol, if I'm not mistaken. Remember the kid that was hanging off the large cruise boat?
Oh,
Did we have gear in the boat?
yeah, we had gear in the
Oh,
boat.
okay.
Yeah,
So we were training that day.
yeah. We had gear in the boat because
Yeah,
we had just finished for the day,
yeah. We
if
were
you
all done,
remember.
tired, beat,
Right,
been
and we
training
were
all day long.
right. We were heading back.
Yeah,
But we know, we know the route of that boat. So a lot of times we would cruise around it, right?
yeah.
And
Well, it was actually coming perpendicular to us.
right,
They had the right of way,
right,
and so we kind of were going to go around its stern,
right,
and I mean, it's a large boat. I don't know how many hundreds of people it holds, but it's a very large multi-deck,
right,
big cruise boat.
right, right.
And we come around it, and I just happened to turn just to look at it.
Yeah.
We were heading the other way and
Well, one of
perpendicular
the
from it.
things is before, sorry, one of the things is people were always when they would see us, everybody on the boat would always wave to us, and so we were accustomed to seeing people wave to us and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go
So
ahead.
we go by. So the boat passes us. We go by, and I just happen to turn and look, and I see this guy hanging off the side of the boat, off trying to hold on to a just
The
uh,
rail,
a no, it
the
wasn't. It was
the
it
the
was a board that ran alongside that they used when they came up against their dock.
right,
The buoys would go in there.
right.
The fenders, the big giant boat fenders, when they
Yeah,
put them up there. This guy's hanging off this wood rail, and his feet are just dangling. And I'm like, what? And I just turned the boat like this, and all of a sudden, as I turn the boat, your your eyes go whoop.
yeah. I'm like, what is happening here?
So we come flying up alongside the boat, and you're yelling at them. All right. I mean, I'm actually hitting the boat
Yeah,
with
you're
our
bumping you're right,
inflatable. I'm right up along them now. And
right.
they're cruising right along, and I'm right up along, right underneath this kid. And we're yelling to him,
Yeah,
jump, jump,
yeah.
jump.
Let
We got
go.
you, we
We
got you.
got you. Right, right.
Because he's yelling, he's there, and it's like, how in the heck did this kid get out there? Well,
Right.
there was an open door right there. Little
Yeah.
did we know he was one of the employees.
Yeah, he's a staff member.
Yeah, and he was going
Yeah.
to play a joke on some of the other staff members. They had an open door. He went out the open door and actually put his feet on one of the rails. Now, it's
Right.
not really a rail, it's just a piece of board mounted on the side,
Right.
up high. So he put his feet on one and he's walking out,
Right.
kind of like, hey, I'm going to hide.
Yeah.
And his feet slipped. So
Yeah.
now he's just hanging
Now
on with his hands. His feet are just dangling. And it's like, come on, jump, jump,
he's like, no, I don't want to let go. Now the
jump.
Now we got people looking out the door, staff members, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they're looking out the door, and here's this kid hanging.
Yeah. So he ends up letting go. He couldn't hang on anymore, ends up
Right.
in our boat.
Yep.
We pulled away. And so we got this kid in our boat now. So we pull up alongside the boat up toward the bow where the pilot is, the captain,
Yep.
and we're like pointing like this, hey, is this yours?
Did you lose something?
The pilot's first looking, he's looking again, and all of a sudden he
Yeah.
realizes that's one of my staff members. How the heck did he get on
Yeah.
that boat?
Right.
So we ended up following him into port, and the kid jumped off the dock, or jumped off our boat onto the dock, and we said our goodbyes. But
Yeah.
he's
They weren't too happy about that either.
yeah, yeah, he's going
Man,
to try to explain his way around that one,
yeah.
but
How do
could have
how
been
do you
disastrous. The kid could have ended up in the water with no life vest on. It's just his head popping out there on a busy boat day.
right? And think about it. No one at the time, until we pulled up alongside, no one at the time knew he was even out there because he was
Yeah,
playing a joke. No one
yep,
even knew. So they could have drove. They could have kept going, and who would have known,
yeah,
right?
yep.
Until
And
another boater.
we got a lot more of those stories where we
Yeah.
just come across this stuff, and the stuff that you see out on the water is just crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. Yeah. It's
But and then we'll have to save another one. The one, remember the adult son, father, and the father's brother. So the son's uncle.
oh yes.
Remember that
Yeah.
one again? Your
Supersonic
supersonic
hearing.
hearing and eagle eye vision. Because I didn't see him.
Yeah.
I didn't see him because it was rough that day.
Yeah. It was
It
really
was
rough that day.
wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
We'll have to tell that story
yeah.
at another time.
Yep. And then to go back about our trip to Bonaire. So next time, I think it's going to be the next time we're gonna talk about some of the questions, right, that were asked. I mean, since we talked to so many divers and so many people, there were a lot of
Oh, you mean
questions.
questions that people were asking us?
Yeah, remember
Yeah.
there were so many questions that people were asking us, and so we'd like to, y- you know, uh, kind of go through those questions again and talk about those a little bit as well.
That'd be great. That'd be a great show
Yeah.
because a lot of people, a lot of same questions. We can certainly
Right.
cover those questions also, but
Right.
um, but there are a lot of great questions that people had. And again, we talked to well over 100 people.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yeah.
probably it was probably well over 150, but
Yeah.
there's just so many people. But yeah, that would be great. I think people would enjoy hearing that.
Yeah. I think
Um,
I think we'll do that next, I think.
yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
All right.
All right, pal.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Another good time, you
Yeah,
know.
it's not all doom and gloom. We have to have some fun once in a while and have some laughs
Right.
and
Right.
stuff. And, times we're just shaking our head, going,
Yeah. And that's one of the questions we'll go over. There, some of the people, oh, what was the scariest thing? Everybody's thinking. So
yeah.
those are just some of the questions. It'll be fun to hear the questions that were asked to us and our responses, and it'll be good.
Sounds great.
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, we thank everybody for listening. I'm Senior Investigator Rich Morin.
And I'm Senior Investigator Ed Myron.
All right, buddy. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, have a great night.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.